This should be really fun to follow up two developers talking about working with publishers. We have a publisher talking about working with developers. Julia PALATOVSKA is, I can never say that last name, PALATOVSKA. Is that right?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, close enough. We've actually worked with G5. She's the business development director for G5, and she's going to tell us today about working with publishers.
Good publishers.
Good publishers. I'm very interested.
Okay, so those of you who have been to the previous session would probably be interested to learn how to work with a good publisher and how our process works. I also want to add to the previous sessions that not only bad developers get out of business, or those developers who make mistakes, also bad publishers, whatever their model is, they also get out of business rather quickly. And our company is there for over 10 years, and we are a mobile games company in our DNA because we started as a contract mobile games developer. And then when the iPhone just appeared, we started publishing games on the iPhone. And we started with publishing third-party games of independent developers. And we're now very proud to be the only publisher out there who has top-grossing game on iOS published with independent developer publisher business model. So meaning that everybody else who has top-grossing games on Apple App Store either is indie, like developer of one or two games, and they own their game totally, or it's a publisher, but he owns a share in the company, in the development company, or owns the title totally. So we're the only one who are working with totally independent studios. And I would like to tell you how we do this and how it works. So many of our partners, they come from premium games business, meaning that they have been developing premium unlockable games first for PC portals and then for mobile platforms like iOS and Android. Those games have at most one in-app purchase, so like try and buy model. And now these partners of ours come and they have no idea how to move to free-to-play business model, because obviously the money is there right now. And I would like to tell how the premium games development process differs from free-to-play games development process. Because if you want to start developing free-to-play games and you want to make them successful, and you are ready to make it long-term project which eventually can make you millions, because if you are not very focused, you'll just fail and get out of business. I want to show you what you should be ready for. So we start with premium games development process, which you're probably familiar with when you just develop the game and release it and forget about it. You start with the dev team, right? And then you have to generate around 4 to 20 hours of gameplay. And then what happens, you get this game to the marketing team. If you self-publish, it's your marketing team, or you bring it to the publisher, good or bad, and they release it. And then what happens next is the game goes to the users, and you get profit, what you wanted. So this is pretty clear process. There might be some additions, but once you get your game out there, you do not have usually, you may have some minor bug fix updates at most, but you basically you forget about it. And you can focus now your development team on making new games. this game is just out there generating money, and hopefully publisher is taking care of this, but now you probably just get your royalties. Now let's look at free-to-play game development process, which is totally different. So forget about 4 to 20 hours of gameplay. When you release your game, your free-to-play game first, even if it's soft launch, you have to generate at least 2 months of gameplay, because practice shows that within the first 2 months after this even soft launch, you will not be able to release any valuable update, because you need to collect data, you need to think what to improve. So be ready to generate like 2 months of gameplay for your users. Otherwise, they will leave your game. Then what happens next? It doesn't go to marketing, it goes to QA. If you have some bugs in your premium game, it's really bad, but if you have some bugs in your free-to-play game, you make your players immediately distrust you, and they will not invest in in-app purchases, because when players start paying money in free-to-play game, they consider it their investment in long-term fun. And if there are some small bugs, visual issues, something doesn't work with the payments or whatever, there are some crashes, they wouldn't like to invest in this game. They may continue playing, but go and invest money in some other free-to-play game. Then what happens next is your game should go to a localization team. Why? If we think that soft launch should happen in many countries. It doesn't make sense to collect data only in one country, as some of our partners think, because you will have very limited data, very specific for that country, and this will not give you enough information about future performance worldwide. And you want to make millions, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't go through this all complicated process, and you have to localize your game straight away. Also, it again builds trust, because if you invested some time and effort in localizing your game, your players will really appreciate it and will be more happy to start paying money. And then, of course, your data and your performance will be better and more clear to you, because also practice shows that many players are not so good at languages, and without localized versions in their own language, they will not be able to progress in the game so quickly. And then localized game goes to localization QA. This is also very important, because whoever you hire to translate your game, they will not play the whole of the game. They will make some logical mistakes, there will be always some localization issues. And again, users will not appreciate it. And then, when the game is clean and doesn't have crashes and is localized, it goes to marketing. And then it goes to release, and then it goes to users. But unfortunately, there is no profit, most likely, yet. What happens next? You've got to collect data, because whatever you plan, usually users behave differently. You think they will do one thing, and they behave totally differently, and the only way to learn about their behavior is to collect data. And you've got to have some people who are able to analyze this data. And this comes with the experience. That's where good publishers are very helpful, because they have a lot of data, they have a lot of users, they have experienced producers, and this is where we can really add you a lot of value, because we've got analytics team, we've got our own analytics system, and this data should be analyzed properly and then go back to development team. And then, apart from data, users will give you feedback. And this feedback is very important, and you should make sure that this feedback doesn't go directly to development team. Because if your development team starts replying emails, messages in social networks, etc., the development will stop. There will be too many emails, and especially if your user invested a little bit of money in your free-to-play game, they will definitely send you a lot of messages and will always complain. And if you do not have a support team which would answer all of those messages, users will go back to the App Store and complain there. They will downrate your game and write bad reviews. And this will definitely, again, ruin the trust of other users, and your downloads will go down. And this is very important because if your game doesn't have 5 stars or at least 4 stars, this will definitely influence your data, and you will get more and more bad reviews, and you don't want to do this. We owe a lot to our awesome support team, which is sitting there days and nights, talking to the users, and collecting their feedback and making sure that they're happy and all of our games. The KPI for our support team is that we should have at least 4.5 stars for each game. And they analyze all of this, and they, again, go back to development team with suggestions and requests. And then also there are requests from marketing. First of all, these are requests connected to some marketing events, like some holiday updates, marketing promotion related updates, or some, like add snow or add Christmas features, etc. And this also goes to poor development team. So looks like complicated. But you should also think about your budget, because considering all this process and how much more complicated it is compared to your to the development of your premium games, you should be very focused and be able to do this within the budget. And sometimes it is possible to develop free-to-play game within the same budget with premium game, but it's usually possible only for a very experienced team with a lot of games. Usually it's more, and you should be also ready for this. So this is the whole process. And the most scary thing about it, that this whole process should repeat every single month, because you've got to release monthly updates. In our experience is that if you do not release an update for more than 2 months for a free-to-play game, you really start losing your users. And all these previous efforts, they go in vain. Oh wow, I've got 5 minutes. But some good news here, because profit is like this. And if you do everything, all of this right, there is profit. And it's worth it, really. So, small comparison to how these two processes work. And now I will tell you what we do, what a good publisher should do for you. First of all, it's marketing. From icon to user acquisition to pushing your game to our, like through email list, social networks, pitching the game to the platforms like Apple and Google. Most of our games get featured pretty early, giving you promotions and special updates and all jazzy stuff you can imagine marketing can do. And you don't have to take care of marketing if you work with a good publisher like G5. And then we take care of localizations. We localize your game to at least 11 languages. And we take care of localization QA. And we take care of QA and make sure that the game we release is not buggy and is according to expectations of our users. We don't know our users, as Chris told in the previous presentation, and we do not release a game which is not properly tested because we don't want to lose those users, and then we don't want them to mistrust us. But however, you should make sure that you test your game on your side as well, because if we test, like if you don't test and we get all buggy and crashy game, we will have to focus our efforts of our QA team on your game only and probably close the business rather soon if every developer sends us not tested game at all. We had some issues like this, so like developer doesn't really test the game at all and they expect us to do everything on our side. Because you're laughing. Then we take care of analytics. And we help you with the updates. It's a little bit early. We help you to analyze what to put in your next update. And you work with our producers who help you work with the creative stuff and with monetization especially, which is very important because you want to make money, right? And you don't want to have very soft monetization or too hard monetization. You want to make it right. We take care of customer support, as I mentioned previously. You don't want to think about it and you will not have working with us. And game polishing. If we work as you are an independent games studio and we're a publisher, we expect you to know what you do. So in this case, you have to have your concept, your idea, you have to show us playable demo. And you have to know what you're going to do. But at a certain point, we'll start, once the contract is signed, we will start participating in your development process. And we will give you all guidelines which already work for us for years, which make users like your game, which make platforms like Google and Apple and Amazon feature your game. And of course, we will also give you very valuable advice on monetization. And of course, working together on the updates. And this is all done in cooperation. So you take care of your stuff and we take care of our part, and then it works. And we've got example of how it works. We have several games, free-to-play games published with this independent developer publisher model. And this is probably the most successful example, The Secret Society, which is consistently in top 50 grossing games on iPad in the United States for about a year already. And every single month, it generates more money than in the previous months. And January and December, last 2 months, were record for this game, even though it's out there for more than a year. This game is really successful for the developer as well. They are making millions of money. And this is their IP, which we are very proud of, meaning that we can work in this model, and we're the only publisher out there working like this so far. Questions?
Just one quick question. Thanks for the nice talk. You're talking about free to play, and I see where you're coming from and where you're going at. I think, especially when you make games for kids, it's still viable to have a try before you buy and then one fixed price, because many parents, they're the ones who in the end pay for the game, are wary of free-to-play models with many in-app purchases. What do you think about that from the perspective of a publisher?
I totally agree with you, but we do not publish games for the children. Any more questions?
Okay, I think we're going to stop it there because we're actually running a little bit late. If anyone has any more questions,
Please use this email. This will go straight to my inbox. Thank
okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.